Hello there, all you cool cats and kittens. I hope you're doing wonderful.
Yeah, anybody that can do high pressure sales, they're gonna have the capacity to do self-staging, absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
We created our brand, which means we created our logo, we created our website, we created that vision before we launched our business. We didn't have a clue what our brand was before we launched our business.
Hey there, everybody. Brodnax here with another episode of Stager Talk. And today, man, I am so jazzed to introduce my next guest because you talk about somebody who knows women, she knows entrepreneurs, she knows business, and she knows sales. And at RESACON, she's going to teach you how to sell more, sell better, and how to close more deals. It's Mimi Brown. Welcome to my show.
Hey there. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. I am so excited. So I just want to jump right in here. So let's just talk sales. So just so you know that one of the biggest issues in our industry is women not, number one, charging what they're worth. They want to be an entrepreneur, which is great. We welcome that. Let's help them and rise them up. But they have this thing, they get in this cycle of they don't set the right price, and then they don't know how to close a sale. And then the couple little clients they maybe do have in a year when they really need to raise those prices because they know they can't survive on that. Now they got to convince those people to do it. And then the number one question that I always get posed when people call for career counseling sessions with me is, how do I convince a real estate agent to hire me? So there's a lot of things here. It's a lot to kind of unpack because this is all about a lot of mindset. So what do you have to say to all that?
So 95% of it is your mindset piece. And I will say, I have to jump on this whole convince thing. You don't have to convince anyone of anything. It's not about convincing. You have the value, you have the expertise, you have the background. You're making sure they're a match for you, and you want to properly qualify them. So when you look at, and you're very clear about who's my ideal client, who do I enjoy working with? Who can actually afford to pay me what I'm worth? And that's part of that ideal client piece. So when I'm getting ready to prospect and I'm going out there and I'm finding the folks that I enjoy working with, because one of my pieces is, am I going to like you? Are we going to have a good time together? Am I going to get energy? I have fired clients before, let me tell you, just because it has to be a match. And your qualification process should be a couple things. One is, can they afford you? Two, are they the type of business that you want to work with? So when you think about this agent, how much production are they doing? How many houses are they selling? How many open houses are they having? How many folks are coming across their doors? So that you can say, hey, I know when I work with this kind of person, this is the results that I can help you yield. And then when you're able to say that with confidence, it sells itself. It's not if you're going to do it, it's how are we going to work together? And I think that's the first step of this confidence piece. And people can smell your lack of confidence a mile away.
Yep, this is true. And the thing of it is, you're only going to gain more confidence by doing this over and over and over and over. So you really need, for me, I always try to teach people, track your conversations with people. How many pitches do you have to give in order to close a sale? So do it just off of 10. Every 10 people, when you first start out, if you got one, that's what your close rate is. 10%
close rate, which is not terrible.
Not terrible. Many people
do I need to get in front of? And yeah. I remember when I first started, and I've sold some of everything. I've sold insurance plans for your appliances. I've sold brassieres, giving the girl the gift of a lift. By the way, ladies, everyone should get a new bra by every 6 to 12 months. But I gave this, and it doesn't matter what you're selling. It's really understanding what your clients need, what they value, what their challenges are, and how what you provide solves that challenge for them. And when you can get clear about that and say that with confidence, then they're like, oh, where do I sign up?
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people too that you've got to connect with that, with the person that you're trying to close a sale with. And if you can't connect with them on a human level, I mean, people just don't hire you because you have what they want. They are hiring you because they trust you, because they like you, because they connect with you on some level. So you've got to, my thing is just be authenticity, be authentic. And so many people worry about the elevator speech and doing something that's scripted. And it's great to have those things as some go-tos that you can pull out of your bag of tricks, but just being Just
being passionate,
just being
right?
passionate.
Yeah, let them, you got into this business for a reason. You're passionate about helping people make an amazing looking space so that they can sell this home, or they can really help leverage the opportunity that's in front of them, right? And so when you share that passion and people feel that, it's electric, it's magnetic, and you really don't have to sell anything. I don't really love the word sales. I think it's more about serving people. How can I serve you at a higher level? And when I have that mindset shift that what I have is so valuable that if I don't share it with you, I'm doing you a disservice, that's the place you want to start from. And I would get ready to feel like I'm going to bust at the seams if I don't get a chance to offer that to you. And when you make that shift that I'm here to serve you, it just makes the conversation flow so much better. And that rapport building is huge. And it's something as simple as finding out about them. What do they do for a living? What do they enjoy? What hobbies do they have? Do they have kids? Because that, when you can find those connection points, then you're able to transition into, oh, well, I get why this would be so important for you. You want to make sure you have the time to spend with your kids. Who wants to worry about the staging part of it? I got that for you. You can go to little Johnny's soccer game a little bit later. And then you talked about something earlier. People buy, I call it your KLAT factor. People buy from folks they know, they like, and they trust.
Yep.
And how do they know you? Well, you just get a chance to share something about yourself. It's having that sense of authenticity, but hey, let me share with you who I am as a human, right? I just said it on a sales interview not too long ago for a client, and one of the guys who was up for the job, one of the first things he started with is, this is who I am. Let me show you a little bit about my background, but he also shared about his family. He had 5 kids, and they were involved in a lot of different activities, and other people that were on the call were like, yeah, my kid's in soccer too. And let me tell you, and they just went through this whole connection point. And it made the sale, because he was selling himself in an interview, so much easier. People liked him. And let's talk about liking. Liking is finding an equal connection point with that person. So one of my favorite books is Robert Cialdini's Influence, the Power of Persuasion. He says there's 6 principles of influence that get people to say yes to you. And one of them is liking. And part of the liking criteria is, do we make a common connection? Have we found something that we both like? And it could be, or we both have in common. Is it, we have children? Do we have the same sports or a sports team? Are we both married? I mean, you can find, it's so many things you can find connections with. I love it when we can physically go into clients in their space, because guess what? Their office is going to tell you a lot about them. Or even in a Zoom situation, what does their background say about them? So, and then lastly is the trust piece. So they know you, they like you, they trust you. Trust is simple. Are you doing what you say you're going to do? If you say you're going to follow up with a phone call, do you do it? If you're going to offer them some form of maybe an article about something that's going to help them with a client, do you do it? So that trust is on a continuum. It's not an all or nothing thing. And you start depositing money in that little trust bank, and over time, your cup will run over.
Yep, absolutely. And I've actually read that book. It's excellent. If you haven't read it, this is a game-changing book. Another game-changing book for me was See You at the Top by Zig Ziglar. It's an oldie, but oh my God, I loved him. He was the cornerstone of the very beginnings of the foundation of my career. So I absolutely loved him. Now let's talk about the word persuasion. When you only have the power to persuade people, that's a negative word. A lot of people put a negative connotation on the power of persuasion when it's not. A lot of people tend to think that it's manipulation. And it's not what this is about. This is about, go ahead. You're going to.
Well, I was going to say the difference is the main difference between persuasion and manipulation is your intent.
Yes.
So are you coming from a genuine place? You genuinely want to help them? Because sometimes people need a little bit of encouragement to get there. And there are certain sales techniques that I teach about, even in Robert Cialdini's book, Scarcity, right? Sometimes people have to have motivation they need to be inspired to move, because they won't. They'll go, oh, well, I'll think about it. And what happens when you think about something? You keep thinking about it. You don't actually take action on it. So our job, and we're always tell people, when you're in business, you have two jobs, whatever that business is, and to sell the snot out of it, right? And part of selling the snot out of it is being very clear about how I help that person, how do I serve that person at a higher level? And part of serving them is providing them, offering to them the services that you provide, the service that will help solve whatever challenge is in front of them.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about one of the points. We're not going to talk about all this because we want you to come watch me live and we'll do a Q&A afterwards. But there is one question that I want to ask you now. That's what your session is actually going to cover, and we can expand a little bit on it now, and then she'll expand
a little tidbit,
and a little teaser. How does someone confidently get past the dreaded "how much do you charge" question?
So that's actually going right back to what we talked about from a qualification piece, right? So whenever I get that question from people, or whenever I've gotten it, you need to redirect it. It's not about the price, because then, you have what we call tire kickers, which are people who just want to, they just want to go and see what you have to offer, kind of thing. And I've been very adamant that when you're a business owner, you create the context and the guidelines and parameters for your business. And I've actually had someone push back to me, well, I just want a price. Well, it might not be the right option for you, because I really need to understand the challenges that you're facing so I can give you the best possible solution. So I always have those words in the back of my pocket, or those sentences that I can go to if they push. And so one of my favorite things is if you're calling me saying, hey, I'm interested in bringing you in, what do you charge? Well, tell me a little bit about what you're looking for. What challenges are you faced? Give me some information about the event. In your space, it may be, give me information about your clients. What is their square footage of their home? What kind of space do they have? Is it clean? Is it primarily empty? Are they willing to move it into storage? Okay, great. Now that I understand that, what's your timeline? When are you looking to have this happen? And you see, you are controlling the conversation. What happens when you get the tire kickers, or the people asking the question, how much do you charge? They are in control. And it doesn't have to be a thing where it's adversarial or that you're like super aggressive. You're just being assertive. And the difference is you're standing in your power. So you're redirecting and directing them to guide them down the path. And sales is a process. I don't know about you, but it's not very typical that the first phone call I land something. It may be a couple of phone calls for it to get there. It just depends on the nature of the business, but know that I'm leading them through the process, and I always know what that next step is.
Yeah. I always have a saying, once you do end up telling what your fee is, when they have got, he who speaks first loses. It's like,
right.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. And then you just sit there. You let them work through it and let them spit it out, because that's going to guide you. But my comeback is typically always, you know what? I appreciate where you're coming from. I don't compete on price. I compete on quality. What I do is a little bit different, and I'll point out a few more things. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more budget friendly, if you can find that for what it is that I'm offering, you should take it.
I love it.
They are absolutely look at you like, what? You didn't say that? Now I do this. I have a side business. I have a boarding stables that I run, and I do that. And it works perfectly every single time, because I am different than others. I'm a boutique barn. I'm not a giant commercial facility. I offer a lot of other services. It's the quality of care that I'm selling, that you're paying me to do what you can't do.
But you pointed out something really important, is what you bring to the table. How you're different. And that's always the question, is what's going to be your differentiator, right? What's going to set you apart? And sometimes I've had my clients do this, just sit down and make a list. Because if you're competing on price, you're a commodity, and we don't want to be a commodity. Commodities like milk and cheese and butter and eggs, right? Come a dime a dozen. But what makes you unique? What stands you out? Is it the service that you offer? Is it the level of service that you provide? Is it the extras that you throw in? Is it your client list or your preferred vendor list that you work through, and they're going to get you the best possible prices for something? Really think through what sets me apart. make a list of that. And that's what you're selling on. And people also, when you talk about pricing, people like to buy packages. They like to know that you bundle things together for them. So and actually, when you look at some of the price psychology research, that's why that middle option always works, right? Because you got good, better, best. But it's the way that you present it to people that I think makes the difference, and that with confidence, I'm different than the ABC company down the street.
Yep, absolutely. And what's also interesting when we talk about confidence, I mean, and people watching, this is everything you do with your business, you've got to have the confidence. So if you are really that person and you're working and you're trying to, develop these skills and it's still not happening for you, that's okay. You can still have a successful business. Find somebody that has the other part of the brain that you don't have.
Yeah.
Work together. It works brilliantly. And I just lost my train of thought where I was going to go with this. Pricing. Pricing. Confidence level. You could have a client can be getting 2 bids from 2 stagers, and one comes in, I'm just going to use round numbers. They bid the job at $7,000 and they deliver that bid. And then somebody else comes in and they bid it at $4,500. And I know people that will absolutely be the 7,000 person and they'll get it. And it's because their confidence in the way they deliver, it, the way it's just, there's one.
And part of that delivery too is, I call it getting your hands out of other people's pockets, right? Because we give judgment to it. So we might say something like, it's $7,000, but I'll give you a discount. And then because you knew my mom when we were in 12th grade, I'm going to do this. And before you know it, it's down to $2. And you're like, oh, how did we get here? And you totally and I'm being facetious, right? But we totally value ourselves. So being able to say your price confidently and zip it.
Yes.
And to your point, the next person who speaks loses. So
they didn't ask for the discount, and people are throwing discounts at them left and right. It's like, they didn't ask for that.
They didn't ask for that. And part of that confidence is holding that space for your value. And I tell people all the time, practice it. Like I do this with some of my speaking colleagues, that I encourage them to go, like, as their skill set develops and they can command a bigger fee. What's your keynote fee? And I'll just ask them randomly. I'll send them a text message. What's your keynote fee? Because you got to get used to rolling it off your tongue. If this is the first time it's coming out of your mouth and it feels like a shock to you, when they hear it, it's going to feel like a shock. So, and they sense that as well. So you have to just get comfortable and take the judgment out of it. I think sometimes when we're entrepreneurs and we're pricing items, especially service-based items that we're putting our time and effort and energy into, we so attach that to our personal value.
Yes.
And if I could do this and they would love me for it, and get over yourself. Like, you're pricing it based on your value, your expertise, but what else, also what the market can bear. But also know this, that price is a game changer from a perspective standpoint based on, let me say that again. Actually, let me share a quick story. So I had a friend of mine who had an insect problem in her house. And she looked at her husband and she said, if you don't get rid of these ants, I'm going to get rid of you. Because they had gone back and forth. And so he ran to the hardware store and he's looking through of what he can buy to get rid of these ants, because he wants to make his wife happy and not sleep on the couch. So he comes back and he sprays he sprays all the insect stuff. And so she asked him, well, how did you choose, which product you bought? He's like, I bought the most expensive one. The most expensive one's got to work. It's got to be the best. It's a perception thing. If people pay you more, they see you as more valuable, right? And if they're comparing different options, they're like, it's got to be better. She's got to be the best if her price is saying that. And are you bridging that gap where you're showing up in that way? Does your marketing showcase that? When you're having a conversation with them, do they feel that in the discussion? Are you giving your price without judgment to them and just letting it land and going, that's my price?
It is. And then when they ask for the discount, you ask them, what is their budget? What is it that they can do? And instead of you discounting your price, remove some of the services.
Thank you.
Yeah, because the services. Or add a couple on. What else are you looking for? I can add on something. Add on in staging. It's so easy to add on the bathrooms. It doesn't take hardly anything to stage the bathrooms. Let me spiff you some bathrooms to make this a sweeter deal. I'll comp you something, comp them something. You're already there. So bring in some towels and some seashells or whatever soaps, and, you know, you stage the bathroom, but, you know, back out of services or add more on and stay at your price.
I love that. It is really easy, and it's being prepared for. So one of the things I encourage people to do is when you you're setting your prices, have a list of them in front of you where you can see it, maybe in multiple places. So if you're going to be on your cell phone in the car, have your price list, because when I read it, I can pull some of the judgment out of it. But if I'm trying to do it off the top of my head, that's a whole different emotional connection that you're having with it. The other thing is, I've even had people's assistants like give their price for something, because then it lands. They're like, I'm not going to allow you to bring our price down because I see the value that you bring. And it's practicing it. It's doing it in a role play situation. I've done this with a ton of clients where it's not, don't tell me what you might say. Let's actually do it as it's currently happening in dialogue. And it can be a game changer because the words that are in my head sound very different than what comes out of my mouth.
Yeah, it's so important to practice. I know when I was in high school, so many years ago, 30 something years ago, drama, I was in drama club. And what do you learn in drama club? It's with speakers. I'm sure you've done it too. You practice in front of the mirror. Mm-hmm. Now we can practice. You can create your own video where you can practice in front of your computer. I also recommend looking in the mirror because you're actually going to look at yourself, and then move to video. Then you can see when your eyeballs are darting all over the place, and you could try to really hone in on doing that. You can practice. Get over yourself, seeing yourself and delivering that. And it helps so much. And then also think about this. Can you imagine if the worker at McDonald's drive-through had issues with delivering a price for something? You know, she doesn't do it. I'll go there. I order my small coffee with 3 creams, 3 sugars, and a sausage McMuffin with no egg. And I get up there, it's $2.76 every single time. She says it, I give it, I'm happy, I move on. She just spits it out there like it's nothing. And it's the same thing with anybody else when you're delivering your price. You've just got to lay it out there. There's no judgment. Like you said, I love that you said that. That just, so many light bulbs went off because the way that we're conditioned to think about money. And when you deliver it with no judgment, just like the worker at the drive-through, it's just, it doesn't sting.
Well, and speaking of money, and we each have this, there's actually a couple books. I'm trying to remember one off the top of my head. It'll come to me in a minute. But it was an author who talked about we all have what we call a money set point. It's the amount of money that we believe that we are worth, and that we're worth, and that we should make. And a lot of times it comes from us as kids, right? For me, for the longest time, it was 50 grand. I remember my dad said, if you made $50,000, you're going to live high off the hog.
Yep.
First job out of college, I made $49,500. I could not get over that $50,000 hump, right? For the longest. And because it was here, I didn't think I was worth it. Same thing in business. Like, have I made it past that $100,000 mark or that 6-figure mark? And it's the mindset piece. And it's interesting in this book, this woman talks about when she was 8 years old, she was sitting at the dinner table with her parents, and her uncle came over for dinner, and he had just gotten a new job. And they're asking questions about the job. And she just simply says, well, uncle, how much do you make? And you could hit everyone's fork hit the table. And her mother said, oh, honey, we don't talk about money. And she goes, what? And that was the first lesson she received around money. So I like to ask people, when you're having issues pricing yourself, if you can't get your price out of your mouth, if it makes you uncomfortable, if you get cotton mouth or nervous and anxiety, and you get your pits start to sweat, think about what's your relationship with money.
Yeah.
Because it absolutely carries over in your business.
100%.
It absolutely does. Yep.
Oh my God. I could talk to you forever about all this, but we are just about the end of our time. And all I can say is, thank you for stepping up to be our final keynote speaker at RESACON. If y'all are on the fence, if this doesn't get you over the fence to go to RESACON and hear Mimi speak, have a seat. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know.
Please sit down. And I'm excited to see all of y'all. I mean, my goal is to really give you strategic, but tactical tips that you can take away. I believe that I've been speaking for a long time, training even longer. And what I will say to people is, it's great that you get inspired during the session, but I want to give you things you're going to use after you're done. So something, as soon as you're off, you get offline, you're like, I could use that in the hardest area. And this is actually what we'll do in the session. I'm going to give you the words to use. So what words do I use when I'm in that pickle? When someone says to me, well, what do you charge? guess what? I'm gonna give you a cheat sheet for that.
Yeah.
How do you struggle with the negotiation piece? And negotiation is such a big part of the sales process, but it's also a big part of that mindset piece. And there's some things that you can do to practice to make sure that you're ready to have that conversation, that you're not dreading it, that you're actually looking forward to picking up that 500-pound phone when someone calls.
There you go. You heard it here first, everybody. We are going to solve all your worldly woes at RESACON, promised. So if you have not got your ticket, go to resaconvention.com. It is September 30th and October 1st. We have wonderful keynote speakers, which are live, followed with a live Q&A. And we have 20 to 30 on-demand sessions that you'll have access to all week. And then for a couple months afterwards, so you can watch them 10 o'clock at night if you're in bed. If you wake up at 3 a.m. and you want to catch Mimi again, you can watch her.
RESACON and chill. Not
RESACON and chill. That's right.
Yeah, you should do that.
We're going to hashtag that. I'm just going to hijack that from you. The check is
yours.
email. All right, everybody. Until next time, happy staging, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.